Hello, my merry band of O-Satters, and welcome to this, the 79th episode of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, also known around the internet as Sockmatician, and I am recording this today on the 8th of July. It's Wednesday the 8th of July, in a little knitting studio somewhere in the north of London in the south east of England, UK, the world. I'm really happy to be chatting to you today. It's been a long time since the last one. It seems to be a bit of a trope of mine is to let it go a long time and then apologise for that. I'm not going to apologise. It's just been a long time. It's one of those things, and I've been busy and I've been indolent. And I kind of want to talk about that really. It's really interesting. I have, oh blimey, I can't remember when the last time I podcasted was. The May the 30th. Oh, that's 5 weeks ago. I've not been entirely inactive. There's something on the screen there. You probably shouldn't see that. Oh, that's secret. That is secret stuff. Lockdown. And I don't want to dwell on all the lockdown stuff that we've talked about before, but I do want to just say I hear you, I see you. I think lockdown has taken its toll on people in a variety of different ways, for a variety of different reasons as well. Some expected, some foreseen, some completely not. And I've made no secret of it. I've struggled quite a bit. My own struggles have been to do with motivation, and I think that's largely if I really sort of look at what's going on in my head. I don't advise anyone else does that with my head. It's probably not a good idea at all. If I really sort of interrogate my feelings and the way my head works at the moment, then I think the lack of motivation comes from a lack of structure and routine. I have mild OCD. It's undiagnosed and it doesn't inhibit my life particularly, so it probably doesn't count as OCD, but I've jokingly say I have CDO, which is alphabetical the way it should be. But I think it's there. It's certainly a tendency that I have, and I think I'm probably a little on the way towards diagnosably ADHD as well. I wouldn't at all surprise me if I were to be given that as a diagnosis. In fact, I met somebody who has ADHD, an adult, and she didn't know that I had suspected this about myself, and within 3 minutes of meeting me, she said, I see you. It was really, it was both comforting and unsettling at the same time. Again, I don't think of it as a bad thing. I think it's, the way my brain works is the way my brain works. My brain is what I do, what I am, who I am, and in many ways, I do the things I do in this industry because of the way my brain works. So I'll call the ADHD side of my brain part of my superpower, if you like, if I'm allowed to have one. And I'm glad of it because it allows me to think about knitting in certain ways, which I really enjoy. So aside from that, if I interrogate what I'm doing, I think the lack of structure that an empty diary has placed me in is something to do with one of the reasons why I've struggled so much with motivation. So I've been getting lots of counselling, and one of the major things that I have learned, because they've been trying to help me with my lack of motivation problem, and that resulted in some of the results of the delays of the book that I'm writing at the moment. Other things have got in the way, but largely it's mental health issues. And I don't mean I'm in a danger to myself or to others or anything like that, and I don't mean I'm horribly depressed either. It's just that mental health is your state of mind. It's your state of you-ness, isn't it? Your mental health is however you're feeling at the time. Sometimes it's better than others, and I think that's for me is an important distinction. It's not that I'm I'm not a psychopath. I don't have schizophrenia. I don't have anything. I'm not clinically depressed. I don't have any of those things. But I do suffer from things which would, I guess, be labelled mental health issues. And I'm getting help with them. So one of the things that they have helped me with most, and it's been really, really, really amazing, is the whole motivation thing. I sit there going, I can't have motivation. I feel heavy. I feel a bit depressed, a bit low today. Can't do anything. Can't get off my backside and do anything that's useful. So I won't. I'll wait until motivation comes back. It doesn't come back. That's the point. Motivation apparently is a known thing. Motivation follows action. There's no substitute for just knuckling down and getting on with it. And that's not to diminish how depression makes you feel and how difficult those things are. When you're in that pit of doldrum, it's really that dudgeon. It's impossible to see the way through this. But the moment I have found, the moment that I start to do something, then I get excited about it. So what happens is I feel a bit of higher self-esteem because I've finally managed to break myself of that downward spiral. B, I feel more self-esteem because I've ticked something off a list. It's like, oh, I feel relief as well because that's not going to be mounting up, causing me more pressure and wanting to escape. And C, I get excited by what I'm doing. And D, I get interested and wanting to go further. And E, I look forward to doing more of it. And boy, there's the motivation. And F and G and H and I and J and all the way through the alphabet. It is quite extraordinary. I was watching one of the lovely interviews with Suzanne Bryan on her Off the Cuff series, which I took part in myself back in February this year, and I've watched several of them recently, and one of them was with a beautiful soul, a lovely woman called Krista Newhouse, who is a double knitter, so of course I was interested. And she's not a designer. She doesn't design for money or for patterns. She designs she would call it, I guess, my sister calls it making stuff up. I call it making stuff up, but other people call it designing. If you put it out there for other people, you're a designer. If you make stuff up for yourself, for some reason you're not a designer, yes you are. But she's not a professional designer, but she has an amazing design aesthetic and she's fabulous. And lots of people have said to her, when are you going to write a book? And apparently she said to one of her double knitting heroes, she said, but how on earth do you ever find the resolve and the hard work to do something as massive as writing a book? It's so daunting, it's such an overwhelming concept. And the response was, you just have to start. Sage advice for someone who's in the throes of writing a book at the moment and not on schedule with it. But in life generally, you just have to start, and then the motivation comes for all the reasons I've just explained. So I work in the theatre industry and the gig industry, and those sides of our economy don't look like they're going to be waking up or changing anytime soon, so it's going to be really, really difficult. So I have to acknowledge that, and I have to mourn that, and I have to just accept the fact that I'm not going to be working in a theatre anytime soon. And it's, if you've been struggling with lockdown issues, you're not broken. That's my mantra, really. You're not broken. You're suffering from something, with something, at the hands of something, because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And one of the other things I've had from my therapy sessions, which has been really helpful, is the acknowledgement. When something's hard, acknowledge it's hard. Don't say, I'm a failure. Go, this is hard, this is a challenge, and it's going to be difficult to work towards it. Basically, the indolence that I've been suffering from, the apathy, the lethargy, the absolute depths of inactivity, have all been to do with that, I think. The lack of motivation, the lack of structure. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any structure in my diary anytime soon, except Zoom, back again. Thankfully to Zoom, I've started teaching one-to-one classes. I've mentioned these before. I've started teaching the one-to-one classes now. I haven't formalised it. There's no booking system yet, because I to be honest, I'm not sure that that's useful. I've looked at it and I that's a blast from the past. Naughty, snappy fingers. I I'm not sure that there's a particular benefit to me having like an appointments diary that I will try to fill up or that may not fill. I think if anybody wants to have a one-to-one class with me, it's a 3-hour session, it's £100. And it can be on any topic that you like, that you think I could be useful for, even if it's just a little chat and like, can I have a Q&A and can I ask you some questions and can you do some show and tell and have an insight into your head. You poor souls. In fact, last night I had the great good fortune to teach one of it's all about Zoom, isn't it? One of the people who's been coming to my Zoom be-alongs every Thursday. I've been 17 of them now since lockdown started. Karina, hello Karina, lovely to, so lovely to get to know you on a much more personal level last night. We had a blast, I certainly did, and Karina's emailed me today saying that she enjoyed it as well. And it wasn't a formalised, structured class the way I would maybe be teaching double knitting, because she's done some double knitting, but she wanted to hone some skills. There were some questions of things she wanted to know about texture in double knitting and some lace and some shaping ideas. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of all different types of things. So if you're looking for some time, some one-to-one time with me, then just send me an email. Here's the email address, it's nathan@sockmatician.com, and throw some dates at me and say, I'd like to learn this. Have you got something you can teach me on this? Because I'm very, very happy. You know me, I'm not short of a word or two. And I can very, very happily fill that time and make it really, really worthwhile. I've done several of them so far, probably 5 or 6 so far. It's only just beginning, but I've done 5 or 6. And they're so satisfying. For me as a teacher, I love the idea of a one-to-one session, because we can go at the pace of the individual rather than trying to keep the pace of the class going, as in the group of people. So it's really fascinating. For me as a teacher, actually, it's fascinating for me to lock into the learning method of just one person rather than trying to be all things to all people, because I can really, we can go deep, we can go a lot deeper than we would in a class environment. And you don't have to go anywhere, and I don't have to go anywhere. It's all done on Zoom. And last night I finally managed, Zoom have now finally gone back to allowing Manycam, which is a system that I use for allowing different cameras, and you can cut between the two. So I've got Knitty-Cam, which is a downwards thing, so I can show my hands, and it literally just shows my hands demonstrating stuff, or I can show stitch textures in detail because it's a good quality camera, and then it's got the camera that faces, so I can cut between the two. It's a really versatile and useful format. Now, for a while, when Zoom started tightening up all their security measures, they stopped doing Manycam. You just couldn't access it. Like, I've paid for a subscription. I was really cross. Then for no with no ceremony at all, it just sort of popped up in one of their updates and started working again. So I've now got that done, and I've got it all sorted, and it works really, really nicely. I was sort of vision mixing, and I felt like I was on top of the world last night. I was loving life. And Karina and I talked about so many different things. I was able to sort of go into real detail on some conceptual stuff, and give her tips and tricks of where she could look to find out more details about some of the things that we didn't necessarily have time to cover fully as if we were doing a class, but it was certainly nice to be able to touch on those topics. So as I say, it doesn't really matter what you want to learn. I'm not at the moment teaching double-knitted brioche. I'm going to hold off on that, if you don't mind, until I've done the work on the book, because I'm still standardising and formalising the vocabulary that I want to use on that, and what my teaching methods are. Writing the book is going to help me with teaching the class, obviously, so I'll be much better at it by the time I've finished all the text and done all the patterns. I'll know much more about the technique, so I'm not ready for teaching that yet. But double knitting, triple knitting, I'm happy to do any of these things, and double knitted lace, shaping techniques, design concepts. So one of the classes I teach is called Patterning a Sock, and it relies on a lot of interaction between me and the pupil, who ideally would bring to the class. I'll backtrack. So the concept behind the class is that if you have ever wanted to knit your perfect sock pattern and just not been able to find the right pattern out there for you, and you've never necessarily been a designer, or you've never designed socks and you just don't know how to make the numbers work, then this is the class for you. So come along, bring some stitch directory information, some favourite patterns, some inspirations from nature or architecture or colour or shapes or geometry, anything you like, anything that inspires you, and together, from those ideas, I can help you sort of dig into them a little bit more deeply. I love teaching this class, it's so much fun. And I really, really would love to. I've never done this on a one-to-one, I've only done it in a group environment before. It's always fascinating because every person brings something completely different. But what I can help you do is tips and tricks on how to convert stitch patterns that are written for flat knitting for in the round, which of course you'll do with a sock. The design process, so that everything is designed with flow, so that one element flows nicely into another rather than just being a Frankensock, unless you want a Frankensock, of course, then that's also an idea. The idea that there's no such thing as a bad idea, there's no such thing as an impossible idea. Each idea just presents you with a succession of challenges, and the challenges are simply questions that need to be answered. It's really, really, really fascinating. And at the end of it, fudging the numbers as well. So if your stitch pattern has 13 stitches in it, but you want something that's a multiple of 14, then where we can put some negative space, where all of these ideas are all in the Patterning a Sock class. And then there's my Strantarsia class, which is a class for a technique that I developed for adding a patch of stranded colour work, but an isolated patch on a piece that's worked in the round, because we all know that intarsia doesn't really work in the round. It's a cross between stranded work and intarsia, and it does work in the round, and it really is in the round, and it works. It's beautifully simple. So you can use it for adding a little ankle motif on a vanilla sock, just to spice up something there, or you could like a sports logo on the front of a woolly hat, or even your favourite Harry Potter house motif on the breast pocket of your favourite jumper. All of these things are possible with Strantarsia. So essentially that's the plug. I want to be doing as many of these as I can. So if you're interested, just email me. Just send me an email, nathan@sockmatician.com, and let's talk. Let's throw some dates and some ideas into the ring, and we can do that. Knit nerdism, it's all there. Everything's all there. Anything basically that I've ever talked about on camera or off camera, I'm very happy to do in a class. So that's that bit done. That's the plug there. It was lovely talking to Karina, and I know Karina from my Zoom be along. So here's the plug for those. Every Thursday, if you're not following me on Instagram, why not? If you would like to follow me on Instagram, then do so please. And it's just Sockmatician, instagram.com/Sockmatician. If you haven't liked and subscribed to this video channel, then please do as well. And if you would like to really, really stay up to date with everything that's going on in Sockmatician land, then sign up for my newsletter. So head to sockmatician.com, which is the same as the email address, with a www and a dot rather than a Nathan and an at. No one has ever described a website address like an email address without the name. Oh, I'm an idiot. It's www.sockmatician.com, of course, and such an idiot. And I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, go to the website newsletter, that's right. So go to the website and hang around on that first page for about 5 seconds, and they'll slide in a sign up form, and you just have to put your name and your email address. And I don't use it for data collection, it's done through MailChimp, it's all GDPR compliant. You'll get a confirmation email that you have to log in, opt into, so it's all above board. I only send out about 3 or 4 a year, and just because I like to be thankful and grateful to my loyal newsletter subscribers. Whenever I release a new pattern, that's the first place that it gets announced, and there's always a little discount discount code for the first week of the release with newsletter membership. So there you go. That wasn't my fingers that just clicked. If you heard that on camera, that was my knee. I can't do anything about that. I'm 46. Oh, because I turned 46 on Tuesday last week, 8 days ago, 30th of June, my birthday, and I was talking about the Zoom be along, wasn't I? So if you don't follow me on Instagram, that's where I came from. I'll come back to my birthday in a minute. Oh, this one's a bit patchy. If you don't know about the Zoom be-alongs, I host every Thursday night at 8 p.m. UK time. So which is, at the moment, because we're on British Summer Time, it's GMTV. GMTV used to be about breakfast TV show. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, plus one. Wow. Doesn't go very well, is it? They were only supposed to be a couple of hours long. They're usually now about 3 hours long. And gosh, actually the last one, I left because I was tired, and I left people, there were about still 13 people in the room who was like, well, it's early for us because we're in the US. so they all carried on chatting without me. It's lovely. It's become the highlight of my week, most definitely. It's absolutely become just populated with the most wonderful group of return visitors and repeat offenders, I nearly said. Returning visitors who have become my rock, actually, and this is my chance to thank each and every one of you without it sounding contrived, because I'm not talking to you directly, but if any of you are watching, you know who you are, my repeat offenders. You've been my rock through this lockdown. You really have. You because of the commitment that I made to you all, to the Thursdays at 8 o'clock, and that's been unflinching and unmissed so far, and I don't plan to stop them anytime soon. You've given me that structure that I lacked. You've given me the reason to have something in the diary, the reason to be responsible and accountable for the things that I do, and it's just been so lovely. The downside is it possibly means I've been podcasting less, because it becomes a bit like a live podcast. It's a podcast with a live audience. I love it. But it's so much more than just me. It's really the sum of its parts, and more than the sum of its parts. And actually, so it's a very useful time to start talking about it. As of this, this coming Thursday, tomorrow night. I may not have time to edit this tonight, so hopefully this will be out in time for some of you to see it. But going forward then, I won't talk about the specifics of this week, but I'm starting to outsource a little bit of the hosting. I will still be the host, and I will still be the one sort of orchestrating and keeping everything on track and making sure that people feel included and heard and seen, which is something I'm very, very much all about with the Zoom-alongs. Be-alongs, as I like to call them, because you just come and just come along and be. It's a be-along. I'm going to be starting inviting people to give like a presentation or a talk on any aspect of their crafting that they do, which we, the group, will find interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it. We've got Lisa who's going to be talking this week about her spindles, so if this is too late going out, I'm sorry for that, but coming up there will be hopefully some others as well. I'm going to put out some feelers, and if anybody who's watching this would like to talk and give a presentation then on something, then do let me know. Again, nathan@sockmatician.com. I possibly won't be able to accept all tenders for that, because I need to make sure it's something that's going to fit with the group and the dynamic that's there, but I can't imagine there'll be much reason for me to want to turn anybody down. So even if we have to like book ahead, then it'd be lovely if there's something that you want to talk about. I just think in terms of maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that, that's gives you a chance to go in depth, but doesn't put too much pressure on anyone, on you, the talker, or the listeners either, because it just has to be something that it's just relaxed, right? So the whole point of the Zoom be-alongs is that there's no pressure on anyone. There's no pressure on anyone to come. There's no pressure on anyone to stay. There's no pressure on anyone to be there regularly. There's no pressure on anyone to be anything other than relaxed and caring and considerate of others. And I absolutely love it. Excuse me while I drink my... Oh, now this. So going back to the old days of podcasting where everyone felt obliged to show people what they were drinking. This is cashew milk. It's rather nice. I've never tried it before. He said sucking it out of his moustache. Gross. I've never tried it before. I like almond milk, and I wanted to try the cashew milk, and I think I prefer it actually. I really like it. It's very creamy. It doesn't taste nutty. It's got maybe a hint of woodiness in the flavour, but I really like it. It's the Alpro. It's cashew milk. Very, very nice indeed. So that's the Zoom be-alongs every Thursday. If you want to know how to access them, I activate a link on my link tree. So let's put that link up there now. It's linktr.ee /Sockmatician, or you can, the easiest way to access that is to go to my Instagram profile, go to my account, click on the profile, there's a link there for the link tree, and just before 8 o'clock on every Thursday I activate the Zoom meeting link. I'm going to change that actually. I'm going to call it the Zoom Be-Along link because that's what I call them. So the Zoom Be-Along link will be active on just before 8 o'clock UK time, PM of course, and just click on that, and if you haven't used Zoom before, it will prompt you to download the program. It takes seconds. If you have, it'll take you straight into the room. There's a waiting room there, so I sort of manage people coming in, so don't be alarmed by that either, but you won't be waiting for very long. I'll always get the notifications, and I don't think I've left anyone hanging for too long so far. That's the plan anyway. Blimey, so I want to crack on and do some knitting talk, but I've decided that I'm going to move the numbers chat to after the roundup. So I've done the roundup. Oh, it was my birthday! Ah! It was my birthday on Tuesday last week, and I turned 46, I've already said that. My sister and my nephew came down to visit, and oh gosh, have I missed my sister. I've missed all of my family, but seeing my sister really, it was upsetting as well as wonderful. She bought a lovely birthday cake. Excuse me, I'm caught in my teeth. Ah, got it! I've been trying to get rid of that for ages. Part of my lunch, I think. Gross, honestly, I don't know why you keep coming back. This man's awful. And it was really lovely. One of the things she brought down, it was a re-gift rather than a gift. I know this because it's a game that we used to play when we were kids. It belonged to her, and it's called the Alley Cats game. Do you remember the Alley Cats game? Anybody from the 70s? So it was a board. There were 4 characters who are each one of a cat. I was always the blue fisherman cat, always, and never will be anyone else. No one is allowed to play with that character if I'm in the room. By God, no. And there's a maze, like pathways, and each one pathway leads to a dead end with a dustbin, like a 3D proper dustbin. You take the lid off, and there's a fish inside, and you've got to go around scavenging. You've got to take 5 fish back to your basket. But in 4 of the dustbins, I think there are 16 dustbins in total. In 4 of them, so that's a 1 in 4 chance, there's a bulldog hiding, waiting for you. And if you open the dustbin and find a bulldog inside, the game stops, and it just becomes a battle between you and the person to your left, who take it in turns rolling the dice, and you've got to get back to your basket, and the bulldog has to try and chase you. If he catches you, then the person operating the bulldog gets your fish. The fear is terrifying. I've been talking about this with Ben and said, oh, it was so much fun as kids. And he mentioned it to my sister, and she brought it, our own copy, our own version of it, our board game down with her, and that was my present. I loved it. And so me, Ben, my sister, and my nephew Lewis all played Alley Cats, and I won. You don't even have to. You don't even have to. I don't know where that sentence started from. You only have to, is what I meant to say. You only have to get 5 fish back to your basket. I got 6 because I happened to land on someone else's square on my back, and I stole their fish and went back. So I won very comprehensively with 6 fish in my Alley Cats game. La 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 la, not smug at all. Maybe just a little bit. I don't care. Oh my God, I loved it. It was fabulous. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is this on my arm? I know you know what this is. This is a tattoo. This is not a tattoo. This is a burn. I'm stupid. Let me show you. It's quite nasty. Light down there. Yeah, it's quite nasty. and it's really inflamed all around there, and it's this horrible, nasty yellow colour. It's from a baking tray. I did the stupidest thing. We've got one of those ovens which comes down like that. So you open it like that, and the door becomes a flat horizontal surface, and you pull things out like that. So I'm 46. I know how hot things work, and I had oven gloves because I'm not stupid, and I picked out the baking tray from the oven. So I pulled in the thing, went in, did that, and I was standing up, and I was going to sort of like kick the oven door upwards with my foot, but Ben was standing there, and he had no trouser legs on, his bare feet, so I was worried that he was going to get burnt. I'm not blaming him at all, but that was a consideration. So instead of just kicking it up, which could have, I don't know, gone a bit wild, what I decided to do was I would bend down and lift it up. Of course, what I did with this hot baking tray, I bent down and went and just like touched the edge of it on my arm. Really, really painful. The quiche hit the floor, obviously, in a crumpled heap. And it didn't look like much, but over the last few days, it's come on. I'm 46, do you think I know better? So, that's me roundup, essentially done. And here come the numbers. A lot of people don't like the numbers very much, so I'm going to keep it short. But some people really, really, really do like the numbers. So for them, I'm going to keep it going. So number 79, which is this week's podcast number, actually is a really very, very interesting number. It's prime. And you know I love a prime number. So let's look at, give you a quick whiz through the properties of 79. It's an odd number. We know that. There's nothing odd about that, although there's everything odd about 79. It's the smallest number that cannot be represented as a sum of fewer than 19 fourth powers. Who cares, right? We've talked about palindromic numbers recently, and sparked that whole thread about palindromes, which I absolutely loved reading through palindromes in different languages. Amazing. Thank you for that. 79, you were like, why is he talking about palindromes? 79 is not palindromic. No, it's not. It's very specifically not palindromic. It is, in fact, a strictly non-palindromic number. I love that. And I thought, well, that's obvious. Why does it have to be a strictly non-palindromic number? Does it mean a number that's not a palindrome that dances around in a TV studio in spangles? No, not that kind of strictly. It is... Let me read you the definition of a strictly non-palindromic number. A strictly non-palindromic number, it's part of the phrase, I promise, is an integer that is not palindromic in any positional numeral system with a base in the range of 2 less than or equal to b. I don't understand that. So we work in base 10. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is 10 numbers, and then it cycles through again. But you can work in lots of different bases, and in any base up to that number, minus 2, sometimes the numbers can be palindromic in some other bases. A strictly non-palindromic number is a number which is not palindromic in any base up to that cutoff point. Kind of like, it's like, I am not being a palindrome, I'm just not doing it, I'm strictly not one of them. Stupid. It is the 22nd prime number. It's between 73 and it's between 83. I like the fact that 73 and 83, both primes, and 79 is there, not right in the middle, but between the two. It is a cousin prime. Not very happy about this. It's a cousin prime with 83. Now a twin prime are two prime numbers that are two numbers apart. So like 11 and 13 are twin primes. 41 and 43 are twin primes because they're two numbers apart. But this is a cousin prime. So why have we gone from twin straight to cousin? Why have we not just gone to like fraternal or or sibling primes? Because there's a. It wouldn't be 3 because all primes apart from number 2 are odd. So it would have to be an even number distant from its closest prime. But yeah, I think 4 should be a fraternal prime rather than a twin prime. Well, certainly not a cousin prime. I don't think we need to do that. I'll come to the other one in a minute. It's lots. So this one, I'm not sure I like the sound of this. It's an emip, or an emip. Emip spelt EMIRP. EMIRP. It's prime backwards. And that's because an emip, 79, if you reverse those two digits, you get 97, which is also prime. So it's kind of a fun thing. So it's a prime number where you can reverse the digits and still end up with a prime number. It's a fortunate prime because it's something to do with someone called Fortune, not because it's just lucky, because lucky prime is something else. Indeed, it is not one. It's a happy prime. I don't even know what a happy prime is. A happy prime is a number that is both happy and prime. You can look up what happy numbers are for yourself. I think I enjoy the concept of happy numbers. It is also it's a Higgs prime and a Kinea prime, and it is a lucky prime as well as being a fortunate prime. It's a permutable prime, which is relatable to being an emip, but not all emips are permutable, or not all permutable primes are emips. Oh, just kick the camera, sorry about that. It's a Pillai prime, it's a regular prime. It's a right truncatable. Oh, it's right truncatable, that prime. I tell you what, that prime's right truncatable. No, it is a right truncatable prime, meaning you can lop off, truncate the rightmost digit, so 79, take off the 9, and you're left with 7, which is also a prime number. That would work in lots of different digits as well. And here we go. This one shouldn't be called, this one should be the cousin prime, because this is 6 digits away. It's called a sexy prime. Because sex is 6. But it's a sexy prime because it's 6 digits away, 6 integers away from 73. Which is also prime, obviously. Every number is 6 digits away from another number, but every prime number is 6 digits away from another number. But are they all 6 digits away from another prime number? It's a sexy prime. Ooh, it's sexy prime. That prime's right truncatable, that is. It's right sexy. I've got to stop. Anyway, numbers done. No, it's there, isn't it? I think I'm overtired. I left a voicemail message on a friend's telephone the other day, and she went, "How many coffees have you had? You sound hyper." It's also 79, by the way. It's the atomic number of the element gold. 79 is gold. Isn't that nice? I don't wear gold. Silver, platinum, base metal. Titanium, I think. Yeah, so there you go. That's what's going on there with the numbers. Now, I want to get straight back into the knitting now, because I've already burgled on, as I said to somebody in a text recently. They said, oh, that's a lovely word, to burgle on. It's like, no, it was an autocorrect, I didn't mean it. For 43 minutes, and it's time to do some knitting. So you will remember, those of you who watched the last episode, you will be familiar with these two swatches. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to shelve those and say you'll be familiar with this one. I cast it off, by the way. So this was the one I was talking about with my... Do you remember, for those of you who may not have seen it, this was an experiment. It's double-knitted brioche, which is why it's reversible like that, and looks very lovely on both sides. But the experiment was with the cast on. I was trying to devise a way of coming up with... It's quite lacy. I don't know if you can see that with the light in front. Actually, do you know what? I think the light behind it for a second. Oh, sorry about that, but look. It's very lacy. It's very pretty. Isn't that pretty? It's lacy on both sides. Of course it is. What an idiot. So the experiment here was to try and come up with a cast on that was a tubular cast on, but a pinhole cast on as well. A pinhole cast on based on the tubular. And it works. I did do it. We talked about this last time. So it's there. There's a little colour blip there, which is a tension issue, not a technique issue. And on the inside there, the blue is poking through, which is again because my blue stitches were bigger than my pink stitches. So it's it works perfectly well. It's just that this has been on the needle, so I cast it off the other day, and it's kind of octagonal. It's nice. It's a nice little swatch. It's a nice little doily swatch. It would make a nice set of coasters if you wanted to, but I just thought I'd show you that. That's the update on that one. But you'll remember these. So if you don't remember these, I've been delving into the world of triple knitting. Now, of course, triple knitting, as a quick reminder, is not just double knitting with 3 colours. That would be 3-colour double knitting. This triple knitting has 3 layers of fabric. In between that layer of fabric and that layer of fabric, there's another hidden layer in there, which is parking the 3rd unused colour each time. So the whole point of it, let's look at this one. Ignore that, I ran out of dark grey. The whole point of it is, on this one, it's a grey outer square with blue and green in the middle. On the other side, it's a blue outer square with green and grey in the middle. Now, at any given point, so on this outer outer square here, which is blue on this side and grey on that side, what's happening to the green yarn? Well, the green yarn is making a green knit stitch on the middle layer. And what this does is it stops any stranding. There's no floats. It gives you the same stretch and flexibility and movement as a single or in fact double knitted piece of knitting would have, and it's really, really lovely. Yes, it's 3 times as much knitting, but I think it's really worth it. It's really, really thick, it's really squishy, and it's gorgeous. So the last I showed you, this was my first ever attempt. This was my second attempt, and I was trying to work on the slip stitch edges, and so slip stitch edge in. So my double knit is packed away, but it gives you a nice clean delineated edge between the 2 sides, really, really tidy. Whereas I hadn't done it with that. That was my first swatch. I'm just going to move my light a little bit so I can get closer to the camera, so I have the light behind it. There you go. There you go. That's better. So you can see there the edges are all sort of plaited together. That's not a problem. It's just what I was focusing on. What I was trying to focus on was the actual structure of it. Then I wanted to work on a way of doing the slip stitch edges, and I've just checked the last episode. The last thing I said was about this one. I said, look, I've done it, but you can see the and you can see the 3rd hidden layer poking there. You've got the grey, then the green, then the blue, and on the other side you've also got that layer there. And I said I was theorising and hypothesising, not working, hypothesising that you could possibly tidy that up and sort of bring the grey and the blue layers together. Well, you can, you absolutely can. I also, some water, nearly fell in the cashew milk. I also wanted to see if I could, that's the cast off, that's the kitchen cast off, which casts off all 3 layers but hides the middle layer. I also wanted to see if there was a tubular version of the cast on that would look the same as that end, rather than having to do the long tail cast on. The long tail cast on is great, of course. It's decorative. It shows you the grey bumps on the blue side and the blue bumps on the grey side, and hides the green layer completely, although it does cast it on, it really does. So that's lovely, and in fact I have used it, but I wanted to see if there was a way of casting on like that. That's the cast off, and making it look the same on both sides, because I felt that if you can get a cast on and a cast off that look the same, then it makes it a really viable technique for things like scarves. Watch this space. So my next attempt was this. Again, this is have I done it that way? No, I hadn't. Oh, okay. So yeah, this was the next attempt. What I had done was, oh yeah, I know the order of my swatches now. So this again shows the 2-colour cast on. It is in 3 colours, but it shows 2 colours in the long tail version. So because I've brought the stripes all the way down to the edge of the pattern on both sides. We've got pink and green here, blue and pink there, and green and blue there. Can you see this section? You've got the green pearl bumps showing on the pink side and the pink one showing on the green side, but with a little bit of careful jiggery pokery you can change that as you go along the same cast on. It is one cast on, and have the the blue and the pink sides there. You can see a little bit of the green showing through there. On this side you've got the blue and the green there hiding the pink. So it works very, very nicely. What I'm most happy about with this swatch is the slip stitch edges. As you can see, apart from a little blip top and bottom, not sure there's much I can do about that, or maybe it's just how I wove my ends in. That green and pink layer there comes together very nicely, hiding the blue. On the other side we've got blue and green, and they come together rather nicely, hiding the pink, and it's really very, very neat and tidy. If you pull it apart, yes, you can see that it's definitely in there, because it does have to satisfy the requirement of locking the 3 fabric layers together so that one doesn't sort of like come away. So all of them are involved in the twist, but it's not blooming bad. I'm very happy with that. And again, I've used a Kitchener graft at the top, but can you see again, because I've got the 3 stripes, 3 pairs of colours, green and pink being Kitchener there, blue and pink there, and blue and green there, all beautifully hiding the other layer. So that was a step forward. That was a big step forward. Very, very happy with that. Then I cast on a hat. I can't believe I haven't shown you this. It's been on Instagram, but I haven't put it up on here. So here is my triple knitted hat. Clearly inspired by, but here it is. I love this hat. I really, really love this hat. I think it's a great fit. It is superbly warm and cozy. I'm just going to keep sort of moving my head around so you can see all the time. It's got these different layers and all the different, and then just look at this crown. You know, I am seriously in love with this crown. I really, really am. Look at that. It's just beautiful. And as you can see, I don't know how much you can see. Look how I've worked the decreases so that this triangle comes to a little triangular point there, and in that section as well. So we've got, it's just beautiful. And then that little hexagon in the centre just melts my heart and was a complete surprise. I thought it would be straight line from that corner to there. I'd forgotten, because I was doing the decreases in there in the centre, that was going to give me this beautiful hexagon. Lovely. And why, you say? Well, 3-colour double knitting has floats. Wherever you've got more yarns in play, more colours at work, than you've got layers of fabric to hold them in, you have floats, and floats have a rigidity. Look at this. This is so gorgeous. It is 3 layers of knitting. It's super, super warm. Yes, 96 sets of 3 stitches. So every round in this hat before the decreases start has 288 stitches in it. So it's a little bit more time consuming, but it's also completely reversible. I love. The inside's a little bit baggier because it's all done with pearl stitches, but still, still perfectly wearable, still perfectly viable. My outside is a little bit tidier. God, I love it. I really, really love it. And oh my goodness, this is done with the Sockmatician edition 4-ply yarn. This is sock weight yarn. I don't think I'd probably ever go thicker than this, unless I was wanting to make something deliberately massive. But because it's sock weight yarn, but I've got 3 layers of fabric, it's so deliciously cozy, and the thickness of the fabric is so bouncy. So it starts off again using the alternating long tail cast on with green and pink there, blue and green, pink and blue, green and pink. It just everything about this works. I'm so delighted about it. The decreases are not anywhere near as complicated as I was expecting them to be, because I understand so many of the concepts of double knitting really, really well, that actually working out all of this stuff wasn't that hard. It follows the same principles as the stuff I already know with double knitting, but it just sort of expands on them, elaborates on them to incorporate the 3rd layer. Sorry, I've got something yelling. I could not be happier with this. It is, it's the Sockmatician edition yarn, so it's merino, baby alpaca, I think it's not baby alpaca, merino, alpaca and possum, and it's super warm because of the 3 layers. My hand is almost sweating in there now. I can feel the heat billowing off it, but Oh, I love it. Not content with that, I still wanted to. Oh, by the way, I am writing up the pattern as we speak. The pattern is a bit of a beast because the hat is really quite simple to work. It's worked in the round, so you don't have to worry about what happens when you turn triple knitting over. There are things that you need to know about that. You don't have to worry about that with the hat because it's all in the round, so every row is exactly the same. You just use the colours from the chart. It's so easy to follow. The decreases make perfect sense in terms of what stitches you use on the 3 different layers. It makes, it's an absolute joy. Once you figure out your yarn management and how you're going to hold your yarns, I hold 2 in my right hand and 1 in my left. And I can show you some in a second if you're interested. But the pattern is large because there's information about what triple knitting is, why it's useful, and why it works to be useful. It also needs to describe the yarn management for different ways of holding the yarn. So I've put that into 3 video tutorials, which will be up on this channel soon actually. Just before the pattern goes live, I need to get the links for it, so I'll put the videos up and then I'll get the links from it. So there will be, all the video tutorials will be up. There's a video tutorial for the cast on, for that long tail cast on. How to work the 3 things, how to do the decreases. It's like, there's a lot of work going into this pattern, but it's a whole brand new technique that I'm trying to introduce to people, which is so exciting and so versatile and so thrilling. I'll bear it. Now, interestingly, there are 4 people who come to my Zoom be-alongs who are all triple knitters. There's Ruth Churchman, who I talked about a lot last time with the Alexander Crumb Brown stuff. I'm not going to recap that now, but go back and watch episode 78 if you haven't seen that. Ruth, go watch it. Ruth's amazing. So she's working on some triple knitted designs at the moment as well. There's Sandri, who she first alerted me. Well, Ruth first alerted me to this years ago, and I never, because her end results and methodology is different from what I've been doing here. It's still triple knitting, but it's a completely different technique, which is really exciting. And then Sandri, about a year ago, or maybe 8 months ago or so, said that she'd figured out a way of doing double knitting with 3 colours that didn't have the floats. And basically what she's done is she's sort of stumbled on this and worked out how to do all of this stuff. So we were talking about this in the Zoom alongs, and Ruth was there as well, and suddenly in my head everything just clicked. I was like, oh, so Sandri told me that I do this, this and this, and so my brain went, so it's all about the yarn management, and okay, so right, gotcha, and then I suddenly saw practical applications for it, and it's something so thanks to Sandri and Ruth, definitely. Without either one of those, I wouldn't be doing this stuff now, and I'm so much enjoying it. In fairness, it has been another bit of a delay for the book, for the double-knitted-brioche book. Double-knitted-brioche. But I have been working on that as well, don't worry. It's just that my brain wanted to have a little bit of a minty palette cleanser before I really sort of dig myself back in earnest again, which I'm in the process of doing again now. So without either one of them, I wouldn't be doing this, and I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it. It's so exciting. This hat, this is everything. This really is. I love it. Having 3 colours, regardless of the fact that it's 3 layers of knitting, there's a lot of work involved in doing it. Having 3 colours opens up so many design opportunities that are not open to you if you've only got 2 colours. It's lovely. I love it. So anyway, I was still on my quest for the scarf idea, to have the tubular cast on, which needs to satisfy these requirements. It needs to use 3 colours. It needs to cast on 3 different layers in the order that I want them to. It needs to be the tubular cast on so that the stitching just looks like it rolls around from one colour to the other on the edge of the knitting like that. But it also, for my purposes, also wants to just show the 2 outside colours and incorporate but hide the middle layer. Not an easy ask. It is completely possible. And it actually wasn't anywhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be. So this next swatch here, I shall show you piece by piece, because it's a swatch, rather than cast off and cast on, I just sort of use it as a bit of sampler. I'm so excited about this. Look at this. This is exactly what I wanted it to be. It looks very much like the cast off edge. That's kitchen stitch. This is a tubular cast on. All right, there's a green blip there, sharp. But how amazing. There you go. Try to focus on that bit. There you go. How amazingly smooth and neat is that? And then the slip stitch edges on both sides, looking gorgeous. So you're saying, well, what is the point of 3 layers there if you've got all this stuff without showing the 3rd layer at all? Yes, bouncy, cosy, nice and warm, but it didn't need to be another colour, did it? No. Except this is what I wanted to do. Suddenly, because of the hat with the increases and with the decreases, I was thinking, well, I want to put some increases in there and make it lace. So let's do some triple knitted lace, shall we? How about that? I could not love this more. I think it's stunningly beautiful. I'm going to sneeze a bit hay fevery. Nope, maybe not. It's so beautiful. You can see here there's decreases in the blue here. These are lacy increases. I'm just tuck all this out of the way so you can see. Look, you can see there's a. Can you see? Oh, you can't. I need to do the light again. Look, there you go. Proper lacy yarn over increases there, which are stunningly beautiful, and all of these giving rise to the leaves, the veins of this leaf come up like that. It's just beautiful. And then let me show you the other side. With double knitting, you'll be used to seeing the colours reversed. Well, this isn't a reversal, this is a rotation of the colours. It looks completely different on the other side. I'm so in love with this. So in love with it. There you can see that it is definitely, oh gosh, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? There's one side and there's the other. Then I wanted to experiment. Oh, I just can't. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I was knitting that. And it wasn't hard. It really wasn't hard. Then I wanted to try the crumb brown style of triple knitting that Ruth does, Ruth Churchman. Now, whereas in this hat, for example, all of the stitches you can see, regardless of what colour they are all on one layer. So this is just a green stitch on top of a pink stitch, like the stripe in a sock. It's one layer of knitting and you change the colour of the stitches to make up the pattern. That's what I would call standard triple knitting. The crumb brown style of triple knitting, you always knit into a green stitch with the green yarn, you always knit into a pink stitch with pink yarn, you always knit into a blue stitch with blue yarn. And you always knit into them in the order that they are on the needle. Green, blue, pink, green, blue, pink, green, blue, pink. If that's what they are, you always knit them in that order. So how do you change the colour to make a pattern? The crumb brown style of triple knitting, it actually, rather than changing the colour of my fingers, which are the individual stitches, so all of my fingers will stay the same colour, and all of my fingers on this hand will stay the same colour, but the crumb brown brings one layer through the other and brings it to the front, or sends it to the back, or sends it to the middle, or brings it from the back to the middle, or from the middle to the back. You know, it literally pulls one layer of knitting through another, and where you get those changes. So this is my green layer, this is my blue layer. My blue layer now comes to the front, and my green layer goes to the back and changes colour. And it's all done with yarn management. So you're always knitting into blue with blue, green with green, pink with pink. You're always knitting them in the same order, but the changing of positions of the other yarns that you're not using dictate whether a layer gets pushed to the front, gets sent to the middle, or pushed to the back. It's fascinating, and it gives, because the layers are coming through each other, it gives this lovely quilted effect. And so this was my this is my standard double knitting, and this was my crumb brown double knitting. Look, can you see how different that is? So you can see actually the layers are offset as well, which is interesting, because the stitches are coming between, they're not stacking up on top of each other. It'll be hard to see here, but if you look closely, I'll try and touch the screen, see if that will focus. There we go, how about that? You can see that these green stitches in this green square here, the columns of them, if you follow them down, are actually between the pink layer, the pink columns earlier on there. And again, turning that over, it's the same on the other side. And you can see how quilted it is. You can see from the side as well, there you've got bump, bump, bump. So it's a totally different texture. Lucy Neatby does something very similar with double knitting, but she brings one, like the purl stitch, through the knit stitch, not in between them. I've done something similar in the past with double knitting called the Krista stitch, which is my hedgerow scarf, which is an unreleased pattern at the moment. So all of these things, they do bring the layers from front to back, but you really see with three layers, with three colours, exactly what's going on. What I'm very happy about here is at the side, I managed to do the slip stitch edges changing colour as the different layers are changing. You can see this green one, it's not visible there at all, and then it comes to the back and then it comes to the front. You can see the passage of that, lovely. Then, further up this swatch, I think I may have just given it a flash. I wanted to really challenge myself. Going back, so the crumb brown knitting was just that little section, just those 3 layers of blocks. I was happy with that. It was proof of concept, proof that I understood what I was doing. I wanted to challenge myself. Do you know the Saxon Braid? If you don't know what the Saxon Braid looks like, here's a picture of some Saxon Braid. It's usually done with cables on one colour. I wanted to chart out the Saxon Braid with 3 colours. And I wanted to adapt it from cables to lace. So doing all of that with increases and decreases, yarn over increases for the most part, and decreases. Now the knitting is not the tidiest in the world, but just look at this. Okay, I'm just going to drop it in from the top, drop it from the top because it's worth it. There you go. This is without doubt the most complicated piece of knitting I have ever done in my life. That's the reverse. Look at the colours, the pink background with the blue and the green. So the pink background, green predominant, and the blue subsidiary. Blue background with the pink dominant and the green subsidiary. And in between those two, there is a third hidden layer which has the green, the background colour, the blue as the dominant, and the pink as the subsidiary colour. It's in there, it's doing the job of parking the third colour not in use at any point. Isn't it just gorgeous? And again, if I show you lit from behind, it's lace. I mean, there's no doubt it's actual lace. Now, forgive me for making noises which sound like I'm being really, really smug. I'm not being smug. I'm just proud of it. I'm proud of it. This nearly broke my head. I swear to you, knitting it nearly broke my head. You miss a yarn over in one layer and you're screwed. But it's, oh, isn't it fabulous? I love it so much. I love the fact that it exists. That's what I love. So here's the swatch in its entirety. There's a lot of knitting in this. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of head scratching, but there's a lot of success. I am in awe of what multi-layered knitting will do. Call it triple knitting, call it double knitting, call it multi-layered knitting. It's multi-layered knitting. I'm experimenting with 4. Shh, don't tell anyone. This is where it's at. There's so many possibilities, so much stuff you can do. Look at the results. It's electrifying. I don't think I've ever seen knitting like this. I don't think I've seen knitting, because there's no intarsia. There's no intarsia, there's no floats, there's just 3 yarns, and you work across the row. Yarn A, yarn B, yarn C, yarn A, yarn B, yarn C, front, middle, back, top, middle, bottom, whatever. This is going to become something, definitely. I'm definitely using this in a pattern now. This, I don't ever need to do again. But it's beautiful. And can you imagine a provisional cast on, 3 layers, and then a version of this that just goes round. Oh, it's almost a hat on its own. Oh, it's possible. The possibilities are endless. I love triple knitting so much. So much so that I don't judge me. I have not stopped working on the book. There's an entire scarf. There's a cast off. Yesterday I cast off. It's down here. You can't see it, but it's. Look at this. I'll show you that in a second. But before I leave the triple knitting, I cast on, because I cast off something yesterday. I didn't have anything on the needles today, and I wanted something on that was going to be. This is not my passion project. Well, it's a passion project, but it's not my focus project. This is my downtime knitting, because it's actually going to be very easy to knit. And it's a scarf, and this does use that's all there is at the moment. But on the back, I know it's only 2 colours, but it's not, because on the back it's those 2 colours. So it's the grey and the orange on the front, and it's the light grey and the orange on the back, and the orange is in different placement on both sides. See, 3 colours in play. If you can see on my needles, I've got orange, white, black, let's call it, rather than light grey, dark grey. Orange, white, black, 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 orange, white, black. And at the transition, orange, white, black, 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 orange. Nothing has changed about the order of colours. That tells you that this entire scarf, because that's the width of it, is going to be knitted using the crumb brown technique. So it's these blocks here. So it's going to have the whole design. You may have seen the chart earlier on. Check back. I'm not going to show you. It's going to have this quilted effect. The blocks are actually hexagons. They're going to have this lovely quilted effect, and you can see how that's well, maybe you can't really. Yeah, you can. You can see how sort of quilted that is, and bulbous the black. It's gorgeous. This is going to be lovely. But because I'm me, and because I can't help myself, there are going to be certain elements, certain design elements on these regular hexagons which don't use the crumb brown technique. So it's a mixture of both, because I can't stop myself. What an idiot. This is so lovely, so therapeutic, and so much lovely fun to knit. I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love with a wonderful technique. I really, really am. So that's going to keep me, this is my relaxing knitting now. Lovely, because when I'm not working on stuff for the book, when I need watching telly in the evenings, I need something I can just do for pure enjoyment's sake. So finally, I want to show you, after I've had a swig of my cashew milk, and sucked it out of my moustache. I need to trim this boy. Finally, I can show you the cast off from yesterday. So I have been working very, very hard on this as well. This is a scarf. I'm not going to name it because all the names are up for grabs for my lovely pledgers who are going to be naming 3 other patterns in the book. But I'll show it to you. I'll drop it in from the top like I did with the other one. So here it is. It looks like this. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. So here it comes. Here is the texture of it. And as you can see, it looks very, very random. It actually is. So based on a few rules of what you do every other row, with 1 increase, 1 decrease combined stitch, place wherever you want to, you get this lovely texture. I've chosen, again, this is the Sockmatician edition yarn. I've chosen the orange, which is Chapel, and the yellow, which is called Garland. Sorry, I got distracted then. And on the other side, you can see the yellow. So they're deliberately quite close to each other in colour. Actually, I think I'll stay on this side for the time being, so I think you can see the pattern more clearly there. So it starts like this. This is not the whole scarf, which is why I'm sort of standing here shrouded in mystery. It's the bark. This is the trunk of a tree. So imagine this being the trunk of a tree. It looks like tree bark. That's the point. As it comes down, the bark texture peters out here. Oh, look there, you can see that diagonal line, and becomes straight double knitted brioche. There you go, this diagonal line across here, which is like the branches of the tree. And then at the top of a tree, you get the blossom. Can you see it starting to appear? Another diagonal. Oh, look, what's that in the top? Oh, getting prettier and prettier, but wider and wider and wider because the tree is splaying out. Finally filled with these lovely little blossoms, and then at the very top, a massive splay and a ruffle, like a frill, if you like the tips of the tree branches are waving in the wind. So there it is. It's quite long, but worn any way you like. So there you go, hang around my neck. Got the tree trunk on one side and the blossom on the other, and deliberately flaring into this. There's a lot of increases there at the very end to give you that beautiful flared frill texture. And of course, being double knitted brioche, it's 100% reversible, and there's no colour blips in any of the decreases. By that I mean, look, you see here where these stitches come together, we're looking there, there's no hint of a nasty orange colour blip showing through. That's where it would be. Ooh, can you see that there? It's just absolutely lovely. And on the other side, unlike ordinary brioche, perfect on the other side as well. The pattern and the image that it creates is exactly the same on both sides, just with the colours reversed. So I love this. It's so light. This is the fingering weight yarn as well. The Sockmatician edition yarn comes in 2 weights. It's the sock weight yarn and the DK weight. This is the sock weight, and it feels so light and fluffy and bouncy. It's got so much stretch to it and so much hang and drape, and that frill is really, really rather divine. I love that. This is some people may recognise this. It's a redesign of a scarf pattern that I pulled from a magazine about 18 months ago, which was kind of the genesis of the idea for the book. I realised that I wasn't ready to publish some double knitted brioche yet without fully going into it, without fully showing. I wanted to teach it properly. I wanted to learn more. I was learning so much about it. So it's got a bit of a checkered history. There is another version of it. I'm not going to show it because I don't like the colours, I don't like the yarn that's used, but I've reclaimed it completely. This pattern is now fully mine again. It's where it should be. It's in my book, being taught my way with my rules and my goals. I've completely redesigned the end. The end of the scarf didn't look like this before. It had didn't have the frill, didn't have the thing. I've shortened it. I've made it narrower because it was far too large before. This is a perfect, beautiful. It's so light and diaphanous and fluffy, but it's so warm and it just nurtures you. It's sock weight yarn, but it's worked on a 4mm needle, so there's a lot of movement. You can see how this fabric just stretches forever. So this is what I've been working on. This is going in the book, and I couldn't be happier. There we are. The next thing, Rowena, I'm looking at you. I need to get back to you because I've been thinking a lot about the design of the shawl that we're going to be working on together, which is going to be the next big project. There's 2 more large projects for the book that I need to be working on. It's taken me far too long. I apologise. I can't apologise enough. I vastly underestimated how long it was going to take me to do all the work for this book. I'm working on it completely on my own, and of course there's the lockdown malaise as well. That's not an excuse, but it's just something. I can't change the past, I can only change the future, and I plan to get cracking as soon as I can. So I've got my crumb brown triple knitting scarf on the go, and I will be very soon casting on the next shawl pattern. And knitting is such an endlessly fascinating and versatile technique. If you're stuck not stuck, if you are somebody who stays within their comfort zone with knitting, because you're frightened of, I don't know, wasting time, dropping stitches, not understanding things, I say this to people in my classes all the time. I urge you to look at your comfort zone as not your friend. Your comfort zone is your prison. It holds you back. It prevents you from being able to grow. Jump outside your comfort zone, because there's so much. A lot of people look, I'm aware, a lot of people look at the kind of knitting I do and they think it's really advanced, it's really super. It's not. Devising it is the kind of stuff that takes me the time and takes my brain working to its fullest capacity. The knitting of it is never that hard. Jump on in with both feet, because the things you can do with 2 sticks and a bit of string are always just so much more fulfilling and forgiving than you ever thought possible. I urge you, break out of the shackles of your comfort zone. It's not your friend. And on that note, I shall leave you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, as always, for being part of my ongoing journey. Your support means the world to me, and I will never forget it. This podcast episode is now a finished object. But remember, you and your life are both works in progress. Just take them 1 stitch at a time. See you next time for episode 80. Bye. Zip!